My name is Cheryl Rubman. I live in Coral Springs. I've lived in Coral Springs now for 15 years. I'm married to an amazing husband. He's also my business partner. We've worked together for 13 of those 15 years. And I have 2 amazing children, and I have a true passion for really helping people. And I tell you my story for a reason, and what you're going to know about me a little bit is how to break through your fears, because that's the #1 thing that prevents anybody from building a very successful business. So 29 years ago, I gave birth to an amazing boy, my son Michael, who actually was kidnapped at 8 months old. And I didn't get him back for 22 years. Now, I tell you that because that was something that was so horrendous in my life, but I chose at that time to turn it into something positive. And I could have easily taken a path that was going to destroy my life. Now, I'm not going to tell you that, going through all of this, I came out of it unscathed, because that's not the reality. But what it did was it gave me a mindset to actually be something and someone that once I knew my son would come home, which I never gave that up, that I would have something, he would have something to walk into. He would have a fantastic life to walk into, a stable home to come home to, because I didn't know what I was going to get once I got him back. So my husband and I started this journey of opening up a mortgage company. We'd all come from corporate America, and we were doing about $125,000 our first year. So we thought we were really successful. Our combined income in corporate America was just a little under that, so we figured as a startup company, first year we were doing really good. In our second year, somebody had approached me about personal development. And I thought, I don't need to talk to anybody, I have no issues. And it had probably been about that time, I don't know, about 11 years since my son had been gone. So I thought I knew everything. I'm successful, I have a business, there's nothing I need to do. And the person asked me one question. And that question was, how much money are you making? And I told him $125,000. He says, why aren't you making $1.2 million? And I said, well, I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question. And I started down this journey of personal development, and what I realized was I was petrified of selling. I was petrified of people, I was petrified of cold calling, I was petrified of marketing, I was petrified of putting myself out there on the forefront. In the meantime, I've also taken 4 home-based businesses to the top 10, making millions in that as well. So through all of this, what I realized through all of this fear that I had inside of me, that it was all stuff that I really could have put a positive spin on it, because I didn't trust people. I didn't want to build relationships because of what had happened with my son. And I didn't talk about it. And that was one of the biggest factors, is that when you're stuck somewhere, it's because you don't want to acknowledge the pain because it hurts so bad. And that was a pain I didn't want to feel. I hadn't felt it for 22 years. And I didn't want to acknowledge it. And I actually learned how to take those fears and turn them into something amazing, because I love prospecting now. I love cold calling. I love the cold market. When I take any of my businesses, I never bring it to friends. I build it out there in the cold market, because if you can survive in the cold market, you can survive in any market. And it's about building relationships, and it's about taking something that you're so afraid of, putting a name to it, putting a face to it, and now let's put a positive spin on it. So as an example, I just worked with a group of Mary Kay women, and one of their biggest fears was they don't want to sell. They don't want to sound pitchy. They don't want to sound like they're harassing people about their business. They don't like to do the 30-second commercial that we all so eloquently in this room have done. So I asked them, what is it about you don't want to sell? And they said, well, I just don't want to be irritating. Everybody does it. You come in with, everybody's business has phenomenal products. But, as an example, you come in, everybody knows that's a Michi bag. So some people might think, oh my God, she's going to hit me up to buy purses. Whereas I look at that as like, that's an incredible concept, because I could actually match my wardrobe every time I get dressed. So it's about taking that next level and thinking about what you can do to help that person. So I had worked with this one woman, and she said that she didn't want to sound irritating. And I asked her, what was it about being irritating? And she said that a long time ago when she was married, her husband used to pitch his business all the time. Social events, networking events, out there in public. And I said, well, he should. That's your bread and butter. Why wouldn't he not talk about his business? He should be proud of his business. And she said, it's just so irritating. And I said, so that's what's preventing you from building your business? And she said, absolutely. I don't want to come across as irritating. And I said, well, what is it about that irritating that just makes you that pit in your stomach? Because I knew that wasn't the answer. Your first reaction to what you're scared of is never the real reason of what you're afraid of. So it comes down to it that it was that her husband never put her in the forefront of these social gatherings or these networking events. He never introduced her. He never put her in a place of as his partner or somebody of significance. So she never had value, which then led to her whole life, even as a child, she was one of those children that were meant to be seen and not heard. So you can't take something like that, an emotion like that, and then expect to go out there and be a top producer, because you don't know how to have a voice. You don't have a voice. And that was one of her biggest fears, and I worked with her for that afternoon. The next day she went out and sold $800 in Mary Kay, first time she ever did a sale. And then somebody had approached me a few weeks later. They went to a networking event. They met this amazing woman from Mary Kay. They're describing her, and I finally said, who is this? And they said the name, and it happened to be that woman. She had never went to a networking event, and that's all she ever does. So it's taking those little tiny fears that are huge, and they are huge. You bury them deep in your subconscious. You don't want to play with them because they're not nice. That was one of the hardest things I had to acknowledge was my son, the loss of my son. But he did come back 7 years ago. We have an amazing relationship now. I have a granddaughter from it, so I'm very excited about that. But what it taught me was that I literally took my fear and I put a positive spin on it. Because no matter what your story is, everybody has one. Everybody has something happen to them. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to play that role. You can be somebody that can take their life to an unbelievable imagination. When I worked on my fears, my husband and I went from $500,000 to over $9 million in 11 years. And that was one of the most amazing things that him and I went on this journey together. To break down those walls. I love doing network marketing. I have 4 different companies that I work with. I think it's one of the best sidelines or full-time things that you can do. I run 7 different businesses. There's no limit. You shouldn't limit yourself to just one thing. Everyone has multiple passions, but you've been told and conditioned, do one thing, focus on one thing, make sure you're good at one thing, get a good education, get a good job. In this economy, it's time to take your fears, build on those fears, and build an amazing life into the future. You all deserve to live the life you so richly deserve. My name is Cheryl Rubman, and I want to thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
And